Hello, everybody, and welcome to StatCheck episode 77, Patented Quintuple Nerf. We are here going to be going through all of the odds and ends from the balanced data slate, as well as anything vaguely interesting that's happened over the last couple of weeks last week or so in 40K. We will be getting joined by Anthony at some point in the next 15 minutes or so. He forgot it was Tuesday, so we will have him when he is available. Can only apologize for that for everybody who was desperately waiting for their fix of Mr. Violence Vanilla. I'm Ennis. I'm joined by Nathan today for the show. We hope you are all doing wonderfully. On this day of our daughter's balanced data slate.
Yes. Is that what we're going with today?
You come to me on the day of Anthony's balanced data slate and you tell him the Drukhari aren't the best army in the game.
The slate's got huge tracks of sheet changes. I don't know. I'm out of ideas.
huge tracks of lame World Eaters nerfs. So I am going to do a little bit of housekeeping before we get straight into the nitty-gritty. We have already done 2.5 hours of data slate review content. Myself, Jeremy, and Tim went live at 5 p.m. UK, 12 p.m. Eastern, and we went through the rules commentary, we went through the index card changes, we went through the points changes, we went through the balance data slate, and we went through the Drukhari detachment. It is, as I said, 150 minutes long. If you want to see all of our incendiary and immediate takes on that, that is the place to be. Ideally, I'm going to take a bit of a step back from this one, which I know will shock a lot of people, me taking a step back from not talking a bunch. But Nathan and Anthony trying to get a bunch of their thoughts and really go through their perspective on it, as well as me having had, and I'll try and go through some of the highlights of anything that gets missed out. But I would really recommend, if there's anything specific you want to hear our takes on for myself, Jeremy, and Tim, go and check out the 2.5 hour, I think it's just called bonus content January data slate or something like that. It should be on the YouTube live section. Go and check that out. It is by far going to be better than because we're going to miss stuff. This is an hour and a half show with some questions at the end. We are not going to be, oh my god, there's an Anthony. We are not going to be going through literally everything that happened in the data slate today because we have already done a 2.5 hour show on it. This is for Anthony and Nathan mostly to get their thoughts across, and for myself and everybody else to cover some of the biggest impact changes. That was also broadly, we tried to couch it as a little bit more of a positive show. I don't know what the vibe for this one's going to be, but Anthony's here, so I can never promise niceness.
I mean,
how you doing, Anthony? Mr. Forgot it was Tuesday.
I'm good. Doing a lot of stuff, like work
finishing at work.
Yeah, just hustling through the myriad responsibilities that I have. Just doing my best to make it through.
Good. How have you been today?
I've been better, but I've been worse. Like today wasn't too bad on the scale of days.
I think we should check off we should do my bingo sheet at some point later on in the episode and go through and see how many of them we feel like we hit.
yeah, definitely that could be a thing. I've definitely spent more time in the Demons Index today than I expected to. So that was kind of cool. Hot take, the Drukhari stuff is really cool and not actually going to be that good in the meta we end up with. And that's where I think that's going to land. But I guess we'll see how it goes.
Hey, we got to let people play, right?
That's right.
So with that then, there is, I believe, Nathan, not a ton of stats this week. We're going to run through a very top list of what won tournaments this weekend as we kind of capstone the last of the balanced data slate. We will probably have another couple of weeks of old data coming through. It is always worth remembering. Any events this weekend are very unlikely to be using this unless they have very late submissions. For example, ITT is not going to be using it because we submitted this last week. And then the next weekend, it starts becoming more likely. We'll probably have like a 30-70 split with new being 70. And then after that, we should start be getting into sort of like mid-February. We'll start seeing everything. What that really means is we're probably going to need a couple of weeks of data to really know how everything lands. There's obviously the immediate responses of we're going to see a bunch of stuff and it's going to be very obvious that some things are broken. So very obvious that some things are not. But there will be builds that emerge of things that people just haven't put together yet, things that people are still hobbying up and all that kind of thing that we will see this meta continue to solidify and shape itself over the course of probably the next month to 2 months. We are going to see a drastic step back from a bunch of armies that were really, really strong that now do not exist in the same capacity in the metagame. Eldar are taking a very significant drop in power. Whether that removes them from the game or not, unlikely. Plan for Night Spinner still. Don't be an idiot. But you probably don't have to worry about Eldar being 30% of the games you play if you want to try and win a tournament. And there's going to be a lot of space of things that come up because of the second order changes of what's good because it doesn't have to plan for Eldar the same way anymore. What's good because it doesn't have to plan for Chaos Space Marines the same way anymore. What do those armies do to adapt? And then how does the metagame adapt to that adaptation? So give it some time on the nothing works for my faction kind of stuff, because there will be something almost inevitably, unless you're AdMech. Really sorry, AdMech. But what that means is end of February, we'll probably start having some relevant data that we can start feeding back to you in terms of like, more than just hot takes, because, we're all here for the hot takes just as much as anything else. But give it some time, give it some room to grow. We are stepping out of, for the first time, a world where Eldar are probably, potentially, not even probably, potentially not one of the two best armies in the game for what's been 6 months now. So give the metagame some room to grow, some room to breathe. It'll be all right. With that said, Nathan, take us into the stats.
Sure. I mean, I'm not going to talk about anything really except who won GTs essentially, because, to be honest, the stats, like Innes said, because Innes ran my entire spiel that I was going to do about stats going into the balanced data slate, which is keep calm, carry on, don't panic. A lot of different things, but
you can panic a little bit as a treat.
Yes, I'm going to give you leave to panic just a tiny bit if you're World Eaters. If you're World Eaters, you can panic a little bit. Nobody else is allowed to panic, though. That's it. Eldar players, if you try to panic, I'm going to throw a Yinkarn at your head, because it's not time to panic if you're an Eldari player. Just wait.
And AdMech players, you can't panic. You should have done that when your codex dropped.
It's true. So, honestly, there's not a lot to say about this last weekend. It was kind of an odd weekend, although it was an interesting weekend because it's one of the few weekends where Eldari didn't win a GT using the current set of rules prior to the balanced data slate. Marines had 3 GT-sized wins, 2 of them being a Vanguard, which includes the largest event of the weekend, which is the Uprising Adelaide Uprising. I don't know. The large Australian event. Then Black Templar picked up the 3rd one. Chaos Knights won an event. Guard won 2 events, I think doubling their total 10th edition wins for GTs. CSM managing to pull off 2 last-minute GT wins before the balanced data slate ends their lives competitively. Necrons continue rolling on with a GT win. Orks won a GT. And then Votan picked up a GT win.
Well done, Chris.
Good job,
yeah, that was Chris.
Woo.
That's kind of it for talking about stuff. I mean, it's gonna take 4 weeks probably to really figure out what's going on. Oh, good job, Ben. I actually didn't in the YouTube chat for winning that GT event over the weekend. I did not personally look at the list. That is Jeremy's Sisyphean task of pushing a rock uphill forever, is validating your all's list. But I'm going to go find it. I'm going to look at the title of it, or Innes or somebody can look it up.
I'm definitely not doing it. So
okay, I'll do it later then, and I'll laugh at it, no doubt. But other than that, wait 4 weeks, then we'll have true numbers. I mean, hot take: Necrons are now the best army in the game. Cool.
So hot.
And I know the hottest cold take that anybody has ever taken live on the air of this show.
I mean,
is
they're
that
no
Necrons
demons,
might
but
be good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Anthony had to do his best to just make me sad about Drukhari for a moment, which is fine. That's fine. It's fine. Me and Anthony can talk about how we feel about the slate, I guess, now, because that's what else is there to talk about.
That's fair.
Besides,
I want to do a quick bit of housekeeping on my one thing from the weekend, which is that I dropped from a GT because I submitted an illegal list, which was a really stupid thing to do. And I had a great time not playing on Sunday because of it. Check your lists, guys. I realize this is a stupid thing to say. We've just had a balanced data slate. The app is going to be up to date, but if you're building lists, anywhere, you're looking at enhancements that will change points costs, double check, do the points properly, submit a list properly. Don't be an idiot.
Spend the $5, use the app that makes this not a thing.
Yeah, except I'm not going to do that because its format sucks and I hate it, and I'd almost rather drop a GT than submit a list in that format. So
that's the bold words.
Let me make the joke, Anthony. It's fine. Yeah, don't do that. It's dumb. Cool. With that said, let's get into the balanced data slate. So I'm going to do a very brief rundown on what came out for anybody who hasn't, as I said, seen the 2.5 hour saga that we covered already. We had a balanced data slate, a index cards update, which includes a bunch of balance updates that I don't think was weird that we weren't in the balanced data slate. We saw a rules commentary update, which cleaned up a bunch of like edge cases in vernacular and also a bunch of very common use cases. We saw the actual balanced data slate itself, and we saw a brand new Drukhari detachment. So there are a ton of cool things in there. Anthony and Nathan, where would you like to start? If you want to hear my thoughts on anything besides the specific stuff, like I said, go and check out the Drukhari video. I'm here to facilitate these boys today.
I think the best place to start is just like giving the slate like an initial grade, and then we can kind of go from there and kind of talk about like general thoughts about some stuff. I don't know, Anthony, what grade would you give GW for their balanced data slate this time around?
I think the singles meta is gonna be net worse than it is now, but it'll be a bunch of different stuff, so that's kind of cool. I think there are very few things that stand between a competent Necron player and victory at this point. Like, not a lot of them. I think that there was definitely a mistake made with that not changing, and I think if you ignore that giant abject failure, then the rest of the slate's pretty good.
So, a couple of questions on that one. First one is, what do you think does have a chance of standing up against Necrons?
I think that Orks can do it. I think that it gets real thin after that. Maybe not. Like, see, a lot of the other stuff I'm like, oh, you could, and then I'm like, oh no, this. A lot of their natural predators got chewed up. Like CSM getting demolished was not good for that specific thing. World Eater's taking it on the chin a little bit was a bit rough there. A World Eater player who is lucky and does not experience the favor nerf in the game, still favored against Necrons, probably. But yeah, I don't really, there's not really a lot. Like, it's like exactly Orcs, and then even then, there's like a lot of room in that matchup for Necrons to swing it.
I'll say the matchups felt not terrible from the Black Templars Ironstorm side. Like, that army does have the capacity to put damage through on them. Obviously, Necrons are still very good at scoring, so it still gets touch and go, but it's not felt like unplayable.
It depends a lot on the build of the build that you're looking at as well.
Yeah, for sure. There's also a degree of like, for anybody who's out there, like, we are coming out of a meta game, as we said, where there were a bunch of top predators, right? Like, you had to account for Eldar and CSM when you were building lists to play against the top armies. Now you can probably get into just you're only building for Necrons, right? Unless there's other top predators. So you might be able to skew your list to a point where it doesn't matter. You might not be able to, but we are going to see an exploration of options, right?
I think Guard is probably up there as well, but I think that the Necrons built appropriately still like can smash on Guard.
I mean, Necrons might just find themselves in the Eldar problem of getting far too circular on themselves, right? Of eating their own tail, of trying to build the Necron list is the best into Necrons rather than into anything else, and then becoming exploitable, like what happened to LGT, right? With Eldar. So
it feels like the Guard matchup's a little terrain dependent as well, because there are like some Guard data sheets that are like really good into Necrons, and then there are some that are just like terrible.
I think it just depends on what you ultimately build. I think that Guard is one of the strongest armies in the game now. I feel like it'd be very difficult to debate that.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't like broadly have great things to say. I think a lot of the ways a lot of this went down is unfortunate. I was glad to see a couple of the rules clarification things. Though I do think the rules clarification things also hold, like, outside of Necrons going untouched, like the single most confusing decision in this, which is
what were the good ones and what were the bad ones?
The modifying, like ignoring modifiers affecting AP and damage seemed very obvious. Like that should be a thing and is now codified as a thing. But like the one that causes me like true psychic damage is like the stacking of rules one being confirmed. I don't know who the fuck thought that was a good idea. Every time that something like this happens, I just like look back at ninth sad. Like every time we have to be like, no, actions are actually actions and not a weird pseudo not charged thing. Or like, we get 3 Renmaster stacks of something or like stuff like that. Anytime
really
something like that happens, I'm just like, why?
They just really wanted to sell Bloodthrones, Anthony. I can't actually, off the top of my head, think of another instance of that mattering, really. Like, overlapping Fields of Fire,
Yeah,
and even then
sucks.
it's still expensive, but...
It's not that expensive, it's 2 CP!
Yeah, it's expensive.
For plus 2 AP? For the whole army?
The +1 was free, though, right? So, it's a 1... I get it. It's good, but it's like that and overlapping, and Renmaster. Is there another one?
Not that probably matters, but I also don't play armies that do this, so maybe.
I mean, I think the example from the balance data slate was just funny. They're like, yeah, if you have 2 great unclean ones, they each make that unit -1 toughness.
Hell yeah! For my triple great unclean one list, we're gonna drop the Incarn to toughness 7. Killer with
they are 200
strength 8 Fleshhounds.
They're like 230 points now. Somebody's definitely running like 2 or 3 great unclean ones.
You totally could.
All I'm saying is, if you triple stack the -1 toughness on something, and then you triple buff the Renmaster against the same target, Fleshhounds become strength 8, Yinkarn becomes toughness 7, you can wound her with your damage 4.
and as you broke Anthony. Okay. I'm gonna just give him a grade and then I'm gonna explain. So like each part of this gets a grade. I think even though I don't agree with all of the rules clarifications in the rules clarification document, the fact that GW did it and like very carefully explained a bunch of things and clarified a bunch of pain points from the community gets an A from me. I don't have to agree with everything that they do. I don't have to think everything's right that they do. But the fact that they did it and they executed on it, I agree with. When it comes to the balance data slate itself, I'm giving GW a C+, because I think they like did the patented casual double nerf to world eaters in a way that like didn't make a ton of sense to me. And then despite like the slate being pushed all the way to the end of January, didn't touch on anything from Necrons or Adept Mechanicus like at all, despite it being pretty clear that there were problems approaching very quickly from Necrons. And if the way it looks right now, and then what Anthony said earlier, is that Necrons look very poised to essentially just be the new Eldari menace for the situation. And I don't know if we want 3 months of just anything happening from Necrons just continuously from then on, especially when all their natural predators essentially got nerfed in the process, which was probably the only thing preventing Necrons from winning all of the GTs on a month-to-month basis instead of just most of them.
Remember that week where they won like 4 of 7 or whatever it was?
There was that week where they won Nottingham and then like everything else.
Yeah.
And they'd already picked up the pace. So, and this is something that we talked about a little bit in the backstage, is that GW nerfed world leaders harder who had won less GTs over the course of 10th than Necrons won in 3 weeks.
No, Necrons in 1 weekend won twice as many as world leaders had the whole edition.
Yep. And there were 2 super majors. The 2 largest super majors in January were both won by Necrons.
In different detachments.
Yep. And so it's like, I'd hope that GW would be self-aware enough at that point to put some brakes in place on the army that is clearly going to turn into an absolute disaster after they put the other nerfs into place. Yeah, so that's like my major disappointment of the slate, is that they did a good job with Eldari. I think the nerfs that they did to Eldari like pull back on most of the painful things that people have of the play experience into Eldari.
Except for spinners.
Except for spinners, which actually, funnily enough, I think spinners got better. But
yeah, I was gonna say sometimes that debuff is worse to deal with.
Yeah, if you if you have advance in charge, like you're suddenly taking not just the -2 movement from not being able to advance,
So bad.
but you're also taking a -2 on the charge step of it and a -2 on the advance if you do have advance and charge. So you're actually collectively -6 inches total from that whole process.
I mean, that's still on out. It's like, yes, in that situation, if you roll average on your advance, it's net slightly better, right? 5.5 inches versus like the 6 inches you would lose from the -2 advance and charge. But if you don't if you don't have advance and charge or anything like that, then it's just net worse, like in terms
Yep.
of
Well,
for
yeah.
for the player on the receiving end, right?
Yeah, I was gonna
It's
say
just net worse if you don't have advance and charge in the situation where you're trying to charge. What it doesn't affect is anybody who's trying to shoot at Eldar in the same way. You know, like crisis suits
Mhm.
gain, you know, gain what 4 inches of 6 inch movement out of this. Like there are definitely units that
It's true.
strongly benefit from it changing this way. So
Yeah.
it's probably net neutral. But combined with the points change and the less miracle dice to throw away on like doing dev wounds and things like that, I think it does net out to like Night Spinners meaningfully getting worse.
That's fair.
Not enough,
The
probably, but
the
maybe
loss
with
of
the other
fate dice
changes.
is like probably the biggest mechanical change to Eldar is just the loss of half their fate dice, which
I don't even think that's gonna fucking matter, but that's just me.
yeah, I think we'll find out. I think the Eldar builds are going to change. You won't see the Incarn maybe as often as you do currently. The Incarn's still good. It's just not like you can't yo-yo the fuck out of it based on your opponent fucking up sequencing during
I
their
think
turn.
everybody who's played against the current Yinkarn will not care about the new one. In the sense that, like, yeah, she's broken, but everybody's so used to playing against the other version that, like, I don't think you will see her very much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You can like
I'd agree with that.
gaslight yourself into trying to ignore her now, which is funny. You shouldn't, but you can.
I mean, you can, like, charge her now and shoot other things, which is a significant change to how playable that kind of day she is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You no longer get the feels bad of, I accidentally shot this unit before doing this other thing that I should have done, and now the Incarn teleports all the way across the field and I can't do anything about it.
Or getting overwatched and she disappears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's some like little things that improve because of the change, but it's still the same. And the Eldari index is deep enough that I've already seen like 20 different builds proposed that are actually substantially different from one another for how to approach moving forwards. Although it also contains like a bunch of caveats about a bunch of Eldari players being like, but we probably can't beat Necrons, so neat.
They certainly can't. It's not even fucking close.
I do enjoy the idea of never having to play against Wraithguard again. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, they gotta like go to jail nerf. That was cool.
Yeah, they did get the, well, we were going to nerf the one thing and then the other thing and then the third thing so that all of the stacking effects that were making Wraithguard good are just gone. So that book just kind of like, they just slide back onto the shelf next to everything
It
else.
feels like they wrote it as like, hey, here are some options for what you can do for this data slate to nerf some overperforming armies. And then the person looked at that and went, bet, and then printed it. Like just the whole thing. For every army that got nerfed, by the way, that's what it feels like. They were just like, yeah, interesting.
God, poor accursed.
Oof.
Not poor accursed, actually, but my
No,
God.
poor accursed a little bit. Like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Getting the quintuple nerf is a little.
What
thing
the
to
fuck?
me will just never be that I watched World Leaders get 2 nerfs, each of which would have fixed some of the pain points that they talked about in the Meta Watch video just fine, but they did both of them. And then they were I'm like not surprised that World Leaders players are panicking.
And then they like shivved them with points. Like the points nerf was disrespectful because it wasn't like actually that big of a deal, but it was just like, what?
Just enough. Just enough to hurt.
Yeah.
And
the World Eaters changes confuse me in the sense that I really feel like if you wanted to make the army more fair, the way you do that is by upping Angron and dropping 8 bound rather than leaving 8 bound more expensive and leaving Angron the same.
Just make Angron a once per game. What the fuck are we even doing? It's so confusing. Why did the glaive lose the D3 attacks on the charge? The damage thing I get. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I don't know.
There were some choices. I think World Eaters are kind of going to slot into the Gene Stealer cult slot of armies that are never allowed to actually be good. Because
they were good.
Yeah.
Before. Now
I know.
Now they're good like with less reliability.
Yeah. I think you can still build. Like I was looking at it. You can still build it,
I'm
and it
gonna try
probably
it
still
still.
plays well.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be the same, and it's going to be extremely susceptible to your like freaking blood die roll being just bad. Like you're just occasionally going to get screwed by your blood roll. And that's it.
Invocatus works now.
That's true.
It's
He
true,
can,
that
he
is
can
nice.
attach to a unit. You still don't want to do that, but you can attach him to a unit and have it all work. It is what it is. Like if you just get lucky, same shit. And if you don't, that'll happen sometimes. I think probably what'll happen is that you play World Eaters as an army that doesn't have advance in charge. And then like sometimes you have advance in charge and you go, oh, okay, sick. But your play pattern as the Eater is to be like, we have +2 move. That's what you plan around.
You have the Feel No Pain and +2 move probably, and that's kind of it. That's your life.
That's your life now. Angron probably isn't coming back. Don't get him fucking killed, because you're gonna you're gonna need that not to happen.
I will say that even though Anthony is not incredibly excited for Drukhari, I am like so happy to see like even a vague return to like.
Whoa! I didn't say that at all. I am super excited about Drukhari, but I also unfortunately played against Necrons with them, and I know what that looks like now, and I can't not have that information now that it's happened to me.
That's fair. It feels like you could probably beat like some Necron players.
I don't think. I think I could hand my little sister, who has never played a game of Warhammer, the list that I played against today, and play her as Drukhari, and I think I would lose. God bless Necrons.
I do think I'm going to have the most fun of my life, though, losing to that Necrons players as Lilith and like 10 witches come out of a freaking raider, or like maybe multiple Venoms and just pile drive some warrior unit like into the ground.
Lilith needs 5 friends. Like,
yes,
that's it. Any infantry unit in the game is fucked when Lilith and 5 homies show up. That shit is very fun. Yeah.
I also think that like the Incubus unit with Archons is just going to be hilarious coming out.
It's fun. Like the whole thing is super fun.
Things are going to be great.
It's a great army for a meta that doesn't exist. I think if we were playing something like adjacent to like quasi reasonable Warhammer, I think Drukhari would be nuts, because they don't do that. They play very like non-conventional shell game transport in and out shit in a world of like 3-inch deep striking star gods with half damage and 5 Feel No Pain. Maybe not the meta for the really fragile elves that get slaughtered by them all having sustained for some reason. But you know, no king rules forever, and maybe someone will look at the fact that Necrons have won all the shit and not gotten any changes, and we'll get a little bit of help. But I just don't think that, like, if I was a singles boy right now, I would not be playing Drukhari. I think they're cool. I think that playing something other than like Krons or something with a very real game into Krons is lying to yourself about your odds for singles.
I'm extremely jazzed to dust off like my first fully painted army, though. I can't lie. Bro. I took them out of their giants. I took them out of their big old storage container because I haven't played them all of 10th edition, basically, except on TTS when I like got real sad at how many Darklight things I had to stuff into the list and how quickly they died. Instead, now occasionally I'm going to just jam knives into somebody and then die horrifically, but I've had a fun time on the way.
I mean, a lot of the times, like, what they're doing is really cool, and a bunch of their mechanics are really interesting. I think Drukhari is a fantastic example of, like, a well-designed, high skill cap, like, thing, but you die just immediately. Like, I cannot exaggerate the rate at which Venoms that did not get the vehicle toughness increase die. They die so fast that, like, even I, who has played with Venoms in the past and knows that they are squishy, got shot by, like, I had a Locust Heavy Destroyer unit split each of the Locusts into one Venom and kill all 3 Venoms. And I was like, what the fuck? They just all died. And I was like...
It's definitely because they like looked at the Drukhari codex from last edition. They're like, what if we took all of those invulnerable saves on their units and reduced them all by 1? And like at the end of it came out the Drukhari index even now, where everything basically has a 6-up invulnerable save.
It's been a trip, right? Like World Leaders are not a particularly tanky army. Like even some of the variants of like CSM that I was playing earlier in the edition, and like most of the armies I've played most of the time are not like the tankiest thing on the planet. But holy fucking moly, has it been a while since I've played, like, even the last time that I played Elves was Harlequins, right? Which weren't that squishy. Playing Drukhari again has been a wild ride. Like, someone shoots, like, the 3 pencil guns out of the side of the tank and just wipes your squad. You're like, oh, what the fuck? It's so wild just watching stuff get erased. Like, you're either binarily in a transport and untouchable or just dead. Like I had a transport blew up near 2 of my squads and just killed half of each of them. And I was like, all right, I guess those are not combat effective units anymore. I guess they just go over there now. Yeah,
we need something that's softer than glass. It's really a mashed potato cannon. Yeah, it fires real hard the one time and then is just gone.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. What Ashley just said is a fantastic example of what playing Drukhari is like. For those of you that are just listening, it is, I just played a game where I brought 5 witches in to do teleport homers, and my opponent shot them with half a cultist squad and killed them all. That is like the Drukhari experience in 10th to a T.
Yeah. How many units of elves do you think Redemptor Dreadnought could reasonably split fire and kill?
How many does he have?
All of them.
It's just whatever.
The whole 1,000-point army is exposed in front of that Redemptor. Dude, all of them die.
I cannot exaggerate enough how fucking flabbergasted I was when the heavies were just like 1, 2, 3 with the anti-infantry gun and killed all 3 of them. And I was just like,
those are supposed to at least be like stealth and have like a little bit of maybe like edge case not dying. Just all gone.
Yeah,
I believe it.
Yeah, it was wild. Like and it's not like, again, the army is good. It definitely does a bunch of really cool stuff. But holy fucking moly,
it is just gonna go away. I think people will be like, World Leaders at least had a feel no pain and some other stuff to kind of defend them a little bit.
The power armor.
And power armor, yeah. And a 3-up base save. Yeah. This army is defended by paper saves, paper invulnerable saves, and maybe stealth to occasionally make you miss stuff.
The other one that's like super funny is like, we all have like a memory in our mind of what the Thick City units were like. They also did not get a toughness increase in 10th. So now when you shoot at Grotesques and Talos, they're just dead. You can like use a big unit of Grotesques to like make the game start. You know, you put them out, it's a lot of wounds with a feel no pain and like, wink wink and invuln. But like, it's not gonna be there for very long if they have the right type of guns. But yeah, like broadly, very fun, like super enjoyable to use. I'm enjoying being back on them. It's definitely like a nice change of pace. I'm very excited for them. I'm just also like, having played a couple games with them now, trying to be realistic about the fact that like, if people remember that instead of cutting the indirect that went up 30 points out of their list, they can just remove a trash unit and that'll cover all the indirect nerfs. Like that part of the meta is going to be like, nuggets. Because like none of the indirect nerfs do, like the indirect penalty does shit for a Venom. Like you already had stealth and cover ain't saving you. So
it's definitely if your gun has AP, I'm going to my 6-up invulnerable save.
Yeah.
Cover's not helping me out when my invulnerable save and my regular save are like right next to each other.
They're pretty close. Yeah, it's not good. So yeah, I'm just saying, like, you have every right to be excited about Drukhari. They're super fun. They're very skill testing. But just be aware that like,
Necrons are an abomination.
Just not just Necrons. Dude, I think you could beat like most of a Drukhari army by trading 1,800 points of Marines into the middle of the field and then kill the entire thing with 2 Reapers. Like 2 Gladiator Reapers activating into the Drukhari army would just kill all of it. Like every elf that stood out is gone.
It's a good job you're immune to Overwatch as well.
That one unit is if as long as it got out of a transport.
You can kill God for a moment.
there's an important thing too about this that like a lot of people will miss that was pointed out to me that I had missed before this was a thing. So there was a change made to transports with bases that instead of just being within 3 inches of them to get back in, for a transport with a base, you now have to get, if you finish a normal advance or fallback, you have to finish wholly within 3 of a transport with a base. That was not necessarily always how that worked, but does change a bunch of stuff. Also, a lot of the things for the Drukhari, like the Drukhari stratagem to get back into a boat, and the Drukhari, like the Venom itself, you have to be wholly within for a lot of these rules. It is not the end of the world, but is really easy to get scammed out of by your charge roll. So just like be on top of that, keep that in mind, and like be real on top of the pre-measuring with that, because it's real easy to fuck that up. And again, not to hit this point too hard, but if you end up out of your boat, you're not going to be there for the following turn. So like just keep an eye on that. It is wholly within for a lot of that. It's not just within. That's it.
That's good to know.
I was weirded out by that detachment not having fire and fade. Not gonna lie,
Dude, fuck fire and fade. I was weirded out by that. Dude, I got my scourges
I know
tagged in
lightning
one of the
fast.
games. I got tagged in one of the games. I just couldn't do anything. There was no fall back and do stuff. That has never happened to me playing elves. I got a unit tagged and I was like, what?
I'm trapped forever.
Yeah.
Please help. I don't know. I'm very excited about that army, but I'm also very cognizant of the fact that I was watching some people panic when they first read it this morning. And I was like, guys, this is the one time where those chain swords that people were telling you to equip will kill everything.
I mean, changes are like strength 6 AP2 now if you're playing Blood Angels. So
Yeah, you're gonna go right through a Drukhari army because they are the epitome of glass cannon if the glass was 1 millimeter thick.
If that.
Shall we talk CSM?
Okay,
Those
sure.
forgets.
Oh, I've played a few games of them. So weirdly, for CSM in my experience so far, because what I was trying with them was mostly like, hey, let's try and maintain the same idea, but play it with a little bit less stuff. So first thing off rip, the Zeal change is huge. I know it, like, if you don't play the army, it may not seem like that big of a deal because you're like, it already has reroll ones and stuff like that. But one of the games that I played, I was playing into a list that had a whole bunch of stealth, and it was like night and fucking day shooting Forge Fiends. Like the degree to which I was just like, Zealed Forge Fiend into target, should kill it. Blah. Nope, not even almost. Like often doing more damage to myself than the targets.
That's because Profane Zeal just does wound rerolls now, right?
It's just wound rerolls.
And you
Yeah,
cannot use it on non-undivided units at all for reroll ones anymore.
correct, which is a pretty big deal because like the theoretical pivot of a lot of this is like you move to Slanesh Legionnaires, you're basically doing the same thing where you're like paying a CP to get out of a transport and like run onto an objective. You maybe keep the Lord in the unit, you can get rerolls to hit, the unit gives you rerolls to wound, like you're advancing and charging, this, that. No, that doesn't work anymore. The mark locking on top of the strat changes on top of the point nerfs has been pretty rough. The demon ally change was also another nerf like over top of that, which didn't feel great.
Used to run in Cypher again if you want to loan up, kids.
Yeah, so like there's a lot of like little things that added up, but honest to God, like the point changes weren't the end of the world. Like the list I played felt like it had a pretty good amount of stuff still. Like it still managed triple chosen. Like I still had triple chosen, triple forge fiend, triple warp talon. Like I had a lot of stuff, but I just didn't like do things at the same rate. Like I would get into melee and like not kill shit, or I would shoot with like the full gas pedal down and like not kill things, and that kept being like, oh fuck, this is gonna be an issue.
Yeah, the list that really gets fucked on points is the accursed and the chosen list, but like
yeah, that list is just like not a thing anymore.
Yeah, accursed on the other hand got even more nerfed somehow than chosen.
Yeah, they got
incredible.
They got
what were the nerfs?
They're just
for
gone.
So the curse squad itself went up points. The dark commune went up points. Dark obscuration got nerfed. Profane zeal got nerfed. The unit lost regeneration in both players' command phases, and it lost a point of OC. So you could arguably say that there were 6 nerfs, but 5 of them will apply to a unit at a given time, depending on zeal and dark obscuration.
Yeah, yeah, it was really pretty crazy. Yeah, a lot of nerfs. I mean, like, again, fair enough. Like, the CSM build that was too good was, like, much too good. But I think, for the most part, CSM was a problem they could have solved with points. And instead just hit them with, like, the kitchen sink. You would have had to hit them with more points than they got hit with, ultimately. But, like, is it probably healthier in total that, like, for the long term of the game that the Nurgle strat changes? Sure, but probably change it in all instances, not just for CSM. But yeah, there's a lot of like little things with that like add up, I think, to be something quite big. But we'll see how it shakes out. I need more games with CSM.
Specifically, was the best version of it in the sense that the GSC's one is infantry only and Necrons.
Yeah, for sure.
Only,
I think you could have just made the CSM one infantry only, right? Or you could have done something
infantry and mounted, or something like
sure, whatever you want, but like not what ended up happening.
Where would you then look at pivoting with CSM? Sorry, before
so I think that where I'm gonna look at next, I need to test the army into some builds that it's not so disfavored into. Like as an example, right? Actually, the matchup into New Drukhari is rough. Like New Drukhari fucks CSM up. I think if Drukhari had just gotten a new detachment and then just been like shoved into the meta with no data slate, I think they would have been awesome actually, because I think they can do like okay into Eldar enough that at least you're like kind of playing a game of Warhammer, and then they would have been, I think, quite good into CSM. But we don't get to live in that world. But for CSM themselves, I still really like Chosen. Like Chosen are still really good, especially when led by a Lord. That whole package went up, but not by so much as to be crazy. I do think you need to play around with what marks you're using, maybe. It is worth exploring Slaanesh Legionaries versus, like, you know, with like 2 Slaanesh Legionary units in a Slaanesh Rhino going to do stuff. I wasn't overly impressed with Warp Talons when I played with them, but that's like kind of a thing that I've run into a bunch. So there's like a bunch of like a bunch of little things. I don't really know. I am very confident you need demon allies. I am not confident you will have them in a team.
So the last kind of thing in there is obviously you were a big proponent of Abaddon and Terminators. Is that a build that you'd be looking at all at the moment?
No,
obviously, that seems like a pretty reasonable thing into Necrons, but
no, that build died when melee became real. The best thing about that build was that you got to Nurgle strat 700 points of your army at a time against the shooting meta. But now that people have like real melee, like as an example, right? Like the nerfed MOE glaive, like skull drags Abaddon and then kills 4 of his friends. It's just like, okay, cool. The unit's too expensive for it to be as flimsy defensively as it is, because it doesn't do anything defensively other than just be like 2-up, 4-up boys with nothing else. They have 3 wounds.
Arbor Adept if you really need it.
God, fuck, you better really need it. That's an expensive ass armor contempt. Like, yeah, it's just not really a unit that can work in the context of how Warhammer is played in 10th right now.
And then is there a world where you start looking at just solo Abaddon again, sort of like what Sako was playing, like WTC era?
You might get away with it just for the sake of like it buffs your shooting castle enough that you get like close to getting old Zeal again, right? But I think you honestly run into similar issues. It's something that I'm probably going to explore. But right now I need to know, like, for an example, like my entire focus is on getting ready for Pyra, right? Because as much as Pyra is like a cool practice event where like all the teams go to like blood new people, it's still a tournament against really high level competition that I would like to do reasonably well at. So I really need to know if I'll have access to to demons before I like go down the CSM rabbit hole further. Because if I don't know that the army makes an 8, and if I do, I kind of have to figure out like what ratio I'm taking them. And that has obviously further list consequences downstream.
So let's rotate to the next chaos faction essentially in line, since we've talked about demons like peripherally a few times, and like talk about demons then. So like what's going on with demons? How are we feeling about demons?
It's nothing that complex. They just got like big point cuts and the Runmaster stacks now. And that's like pretty good. They're an army that's built out of invulnerable saves and high toughness characteristics, and like in 10th, like having that like combination of things is quite good. They obviously get like no benefit from AP going down because they're demons, but like that combination of factors means that like, plus again the Renmaster stacking, I can't like express enough how much this bothers me, but the Renmaster stacking is really good. That buff is crazy. It's +1 strength, AP, and damage.
And you're probably running cheap new Scarbrand, who has a +1 attack aura.
Yeah. So it just is like, it really snowballs like wildly out of control very quickly, to the point that like a Bloodletter unit would like one-shot 2 big knights if you could get the Ren Master buff to apply to both of them. It's like very silly. So yeah. So with that in mind, I think that combination of things is good. You don't need to burn points on battle line for demons. That only applies to their ally rule.
Yeah, for anybody who isn't aware, the data slate is not the best laid out for this specific thing on demons. The demonic pact rule is the rule that allows you to ally demons into other factions. That is the only section of the Chaos Demon rules that is required to have the 1 battle line unit per whatever thing. So you have to run a squad of pinks or blues in order to bring the changeling, for example. That only applies if you are playing the 500 points cap of demon allies.
Yep.
So you will see Nurglings and very little else a lot of the time. Unless you really badly want something.
Is that really the only things you're really thinking about seeing in singles allies? Then essentially, kind of the same thing that you see currently: CK taking Nurglings, and
you might
maybe
see
a
stuff
character.
like there's a world where you could look at like the Great Unclean One and Nurglings as an ally, because the -1 toughness ability for the Great Unclean One has is pretty good, and he's a nice little beef boy.
He's
Same
just
with
like
Rot, I guess.
a thickum, right?
Yeah.
He's just like a big weird thing to remove.
Rot, I guess, has a really weirdly good aura, which is like a 6-inch half movement aura, which is really good coming off of Ingress and things like that. Like, can get really offensive for your opponent. You might see Scarbrand and Bloodletters popping up a little bit. Like, that's a fairly efficient little option. I don't know if it gets there, but if you don't have an Ingress option naturally, it's not terrible.
I just don't like, of the armies that can ally that, I don't think that it's necessarily something you'll want.
Yeah, that's fair. It's kind of one of those where like I could see something like CK wanting it, in the sense that you want something that can like go in and pop a Technomancer. Like, maybe not, but it's the kind of thing that like might be worth exploring.
Yeah.
And then you might see like I don't think Demonettes went down, but Plague Bearers have sticky objectives naturally, which is something that some armies might want if you wanted to go away from like playing Cultists and CSM and have something a little bit more backfield rigidity for Hypercrypt, for example. I could see that being an option as well.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of like I think demons might have just hit critical mass. The problem with demons, and I literally have a game at like whenever this ends to test them, but like demons are a thing that has looked good on paper since the edition started, and yet every time we put them on a table, they get like fucking 16 forward. Unless I'm playing against Germany and I get distracted by a beautiful German man, then you get 8-12. But the like their army is like, it has a lot of good rules, it has a lot of good data sheets. Did it hit critical mass? Question marks.
Maybe.
Stay tuned.
Be'lakor is still really expensive and doesn't do a lot besides have the best aura in the game.
Yeah, I was gonna say his aura is bananas. Like his aura of "Don't shoot me" is bananas. His aura of shadow is wild. His gun is sick, and he still like slams you if you get in a melee with him.
I played a couple games with demons recently just to like kind of get back into it, because they're one of my like WTC cover armies, and the number of times I've charged Be'lakor into like a thing he should just kill, and he just like 2 1s to hit, 2 failed 3s to wound, they pass a save on a 2 up, or you just roll crap on damage, and like an Armiger that was at 7 just shoots you in the face in melee.
Yeah, but that's that's not Bellacor's fault. It just
kind
feels
of
like Bellacor's fault. That's your dice's fault.
Yeah, but then you put Shalaxi on the table and she like kills God twice through like
I don't know. I had Abaddon survive Shalaxi. I think that lady sucks. Anyway,
that should not happen. But
one more question, because we talked about it very briefly, and I think it's kind of important to touch on. Anthony, you said Astra Militarum or Guard, I guess whatever, I don't know, is like one of the top armies in the game now. Is that the current build that we're seeing with like Storm Swords and Bulgrin? Or are you talking about maybe a different build in for singles? Because I know we kind of tend to move back and forth on this show between teams and singles a lot.
No army that runs a super heavy is good. Or a flyer. So
that feels targeted.
I'm not talking about the Storm Shadow,
Kazokin, Manticores, and
Blade, Axe, Sword, whatever the fuck that thing's called.
Are really good data sheets.
You both are just going to talk at the same time and ruin everything.
Yeah. What innocent. The Casterkin, like Bulgrin, like I'm really good at the game and get to do a bunch of stuff. Build is really good. They'll probably like cry about it and say that Manticores were fine before and didn't need to get nerfed, and then take them out of their list, and then play a game without them and go, oh wow, this was really good, and then put it back in their list. But yeah, that army's nuts. They got buffed like for no reason, and now we're gonna watch them dominate.
Yeah, the being able to do orders when you pop out of reserves or pop out of a transport is very good.
Very strong.
Like,
I think you could already do it getting out of a transport.
Nope.
No? Oh.
Nope. That's last edition.
yeah, you could do it. There's like one of the
Chimera has
the
like
the Chimera has the ability to, but coming out of the transport at the end of the turn or coming out of reserves and being able to do
Shit's good.
lets Kasserkin do some wild nonsense with double orders.
They're so good.
It's very good. That sheet somehow turned like full circle into back into being amazing again after last edition, where the bomb came in and did mortals. Everybody now just comes out and just blasts you full of holes.
Yeah. They're not like, I don't think Guard's gonna be like the best army in the game, but I think they're like up there.
They just have all of the good. They just have good, efficient shooting, a recursion stratagem, the ability to stack AP, enough indirect to keep your opponent honest, or go really hard into it and make yourself lose to any army that goes first and pressures you. And then like some good ground holding units with like Sentinels, Kasserkin, Bulgrin, tank commanders. Like they just do a little bit of everything you need. Kasserkin are like, if you played against last edition's Kasserkin are not going to table you. Kasserkin are just going to do a better job than 100 points should every time you use them, and they have a bit of recursion.
They just keep coming back.
They're just like a slightly too efficient unit in an army that doesn't have a lot of that, but when it does, it can really double down, and they're very good.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that army is going to be pretty sensitive to like player skill a little bit, because it is still not super efficient in a lot of ways, but it is hyper efficient in 30 dudes, basically.
Yeah.
I hate playing against tank commanders so much. I cannot.
You don't like them dying and then blowing you away from like across the table just repeatedly.
Thankfully, that doesn't happen when you kill them in melee.
I know.
True. I think the other thing that is a good point, and actually Bojangle and chat brought this up, is that Battle Shock now prevents you from being able to use that stratagem on them since they're dead.
Nids, let's go Nids.
Let me just get.
Why don't we should also talk about Nids. I think
Nids and Orks are two that we should probably cover, and then we can probably broadly move on to some questions.
Nids getting point nerfed was like fucking disrespectful. They put up this like fucking chart that, by the way, just didn't have world leaders on it. Hilarious. Like debatably one of the hardest nerfed armies besides like Eldar and CSM, just not even on their win rate chart at all.
On purpose.
They're still under CSM on BCP, dude. What do you think that is?
Honestly, I didn't think about that. That's way funnier. Anyway, I'm gonna try to not think about that now as I go through this.
Let's talk about Tyranids.
All the way at the bottom of this fucking win rate chart, at like 4th or 3rd from the bottom, is Tyranids, and then you pan to the MFM, and it's just like red. Like, who wrote this? Why? What the fuck?
I feel like Lennon was targeted in this data slate. Can we be?
It definitely feels that way. They were like, wait, we can't have non-British people potentially doing well at this game. So we're going to nerf all of John Lennon's lists in a row.
Well, no, you can tell that's not what happened because they didn't nerf Custodes. And we all know that John, if the Brits are ever going to have to play him, will be playing Custodes. So
they just want that challenge again. They want to fight the Custodes again.
We should probably talk about our Eurotrash team because I'm pretty sure Jack's on them for us at that.
He is. That's different.
All right, let's go back to Brits one more time.
Okay, and it's got some really cool points drops to a bunch of monsters you still probably won't play.
The Screamer Killers dropping to still not enough to make them playable.
145 is like getting to 10.
Hold on.
True.
You can get, with the Tyrannifex point changes, a lot of fucking 2-up save bodies and Nids now. And
Tyrannifex, yes.
And you can give them all just perma cover with Venom whatevers. So I used that unit for about a full year. Did not remember the name just now. But they can get cover just all the time. And that's a 2-up with cover, just like walking around, doing extra battle shock shit out of phase is really, really good in the context of Tyranids. So don't disparage.
In the context of Tyranids is doing a lot of lifting there.
Tyrannifexes, I think, with that 55 point drop, which is maybe playable at 190 points.
I just
maybe
don't think so.
With like double fucking feel no pain on 2 of them from the Tyrant, like it's pretty good.
I feel like there's things I would rather run before that. Like there's so many, like the context that like 2 Tyrannifexes is 3 of any other monster, more or less.
I think that's
And
fine. None of the other ones are that high a toughness with that many wounds or a 2-up save.
horror specs are screamer killers. Like,
Haruspecs
I would
are
rather
so
have the
slow and they
malice.
have no guns.
They have the tongue. But
And it has precision.
I get where you're coming from, but like, I don't know. They don't synergize that well with a lot of what Invasion Fleet is doing now. You can't double Overwatch them anymore. Like, there's
You
problems.
couldn't before.
They're also not -1 damage anymore.
No, I understand, but like, I don't know. I'm just saying, like,
I
I
think
know where you're
that
coming
it's kind of funny when, like, you've made an army that scoring is entirely based around biovores, gargoyles, and neurolictors, and then you just increase the points on all of them like
Look.
marginally.
Gargoyles are fine, and if anybody
They're
tries to
fine,
claim that
yes.
the 5-point increase on gargoyles made them anything other than still probably the best data sheet in that book, I will stab someone.
I would like
True.
them to just.
I mean, that's a
like,
reasonable take. I'm not gonna lie.
They should exempt gargoyles from the revive the small things stratagem.
No,
But
I
they
think
are
that's
the
hilarious.
small
I think
thing.
it makes me very happy.
Nah.
What would you take in current Tyranids, though, Innes, since
Swarm.
you're...
I would play Swarm with triple X screen. Just play the exact same list.
He would take a nap. He's not going to play Tyranids.
Not if I have to paint 100 gargoyles. Not if I have to paint 100 gargoyles and Termagants. Not on new bases. I already did that. I already did my time on 25, so I'm not doing it again on 28s with nice models.
Yep.
And then the last one that we wanted to touch on before we switch to seeing if Anthony can do the plugs because he came late.
Yep.
We decided this while you were gone. That's how democracy works.
I'll just leave. Like, we just won't have plugs.
You can give it a shot.
Okay.
I believe in you.
It's not that hard. We promise. Innes does it every week, so how hard could it be? In?
That's a good point.
That was a
Right,
pretty
Anthony, talk to us about orcs.
I mean, they didn't fucking change that much. They're just like already good and just remained good. I don't really understand in what world leaders who have 1/3 of the GT wins and fucking less X in ones somehow, despite only being 1% smaller of a player base, got fucking knifed in the kidneys, and they were like, orcs, it's fine. Reduce the cost on battle wagons, put up knobs a little bit, ship it. I don't know what
5
the fuck
points on
happened there.
trucks was a funnily small points change on trucks.
What the fuck?
5 points.
5 points. Okay, cool. I'm gonna take out, I don't know, one model.
Now, all that said, I think if any army in the game should be blindingly OP, and it's fine, it's orcs. And that is because I, on Team USA, have a fucking stranglehold on like ranks 1, 2, and 3 of the good orc players. So I am perfectly happy for them to just be busted as fuck, because we benefit way more than most when that happens. And as someone that's going to a bunch of team tournaments with Brian over the next couple months, maybe it's okay if the orcs get to just run around being fucking wild for a while.
Cool. Right. We're going to do one thing before we wrap up. Space Marines. Sorry, Vanguard. I don't know what you guys did to like really offend Games Workshop.
A lot of
but
them.
Black Templars stole your nerfs.
Stop. Vanguard's still nuts, and it barely needs changes for it to be wild still. I've played against it already. It fucking owns. Don't be that sad if you played Vanguard. It's actually fine.
It's still very good. It got a significantly worse nerf than anything else in Marines while being like not that much better than Templars or about as good as Templars.
It went up more than it should have. I agree. But it still is just like buck wild. Like the play cycle's intact. It's all good. Don't sweat it if you're a Vanguard player.
Cool. Right. We're going to do one thing before we do the plugs and then we do the shoot questions. I made a data slate bingo card. I think we should go through and see how many of these we feel were accurate given my level of attempted prescience. So this is the bingo, and I don't know if I can draw on it, but let's just go through and have a think about how many of these we think were accurate or not. So a unit that got a 5-point drop that makes it playable where it was completely unplayable before.
Who went down just a little bit? A couple of the Demons units I think are like that, and I think you could probably check this off just from Demons.
Incubi would probably be an argument, but
Incubi are the one. They got a 5-point drop.
So
I feel like calling what Incubi got only a 5-point drop is like wildly
Yeah, that's
disingenuous to the point that it should not score the card. I think demons can check this box though.
That's fair.
That's
There's plenty of
probably
little
fair.
demon units that got little drops.
Yeah.
Mostly
Okay,
they're true.
a unit that fell below the $1 per point threshold. So I checked Incubi and the Succubus for this and did not immediately find one. But I am not sure if there was any
The
other ones.
Succubus is 45 points now. How much is that?
$29. So
Is that in the UK though? And
no,
doesn't
I was doing it
include
I was doing it in US dollars because my graph is in US dollars.
I can't think of anything offhand unless something in AdMech changed, but it didn't because we don't have enough data about them or
Admech didn't
Necrons.
change.
What
I
about
think
the Brotherhood
Repentia
Librarian
maybe.
for
Repentia went down
GK?
to 55 points. They probably more than $55.
They certainly
they're
might
probably
be
like
for a full
$60.
squad. Yeah.
They're like $60 per 5.
Or Repentia down to 55. Zephyr down to 60 might also be close.
That's also a point per dollar, probably
God.
roughly. Anthony
So there's
did definitely get.
Anthony got an army nerf.
Definitely get
Ah,
nerfed.
fuck. Damn it.
All the.
Okay. New rule of Through Covenant. I think we're happy to say no, that didn't
Nope.
happen. There was nothing that was even close to that. Changes that aren't highlighted. Again, I think GW did a good job on this. I will say they were changes that were over highlighted from the last data slate that I didn't like.
They also they didn't quite highlight that Ren Master situation. It's real easy to miss that if you just are cruising through the rules changes and not paying a ton of attention.
Can I also shout out the Drago and Wolfen change for that? Like, why were they in the index cards, not the balanced data slate? Like,
I didn't even know Wolfen changed.
So Wolfen are now strength 6 damage 2 instead of strength 5 damage 1 on the Thunderhammers.
Yeah.
What?
While being 80 points.
Yeah, they made them slightly better in a weird spot. And then Drago gets an extra 3 inches in his charge coming out of teleport assault now.
Does that
Not
matter?
just
As well as deep strike?
Well, no, because you only got it from deep strike before, so you had to do it from natural deep strike or Mist of Deimos. Now we can go off the board and then do it turn 1, for example.
On teleport
Oh,
assault.
I suppose. Sure.
It's a very meaningful buff for Drago, whether that
Okay.
matters in the context of Grey Knights. But yeah, Wolfen are now strength 6 damage 2. They are still 80-point models with 2 wounds and a 4-point vulnerable save. You can run 30 of them for 480 points.
That's very dumb. The single craziest buff that I saw, on all the other things are fine, but just from a straight up it was one thing and now it is another, is the heavy Psy Cannon in GK. What?
Plus 2 AP for no reason.
What the fuck happened there?
Did it always ignore cover?
No.
Now it ignores cover. They were like, we're not selling enough baby carriers anymore after we nerfed them so bad in 9th edition. And so they brought it over and they're like, what could we do? We could make it ignore cover, give it extra AP, and make it just better all around, right? And suddenly all of their weapon systems got better.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I was very confused. But it's cool. It's good. That unit sucked, so it's good that it's better.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Unit goes up because 5 points because of the box this kid. I'm gonna say regular 8-bound cop this one for me. Because you played one squad of 3 of those.
Yeah, 8-bound caught strays here. On that note, by the way, I love that literally 0 World Eater lists that weren't exactly the 1975 ran Karn, and he just caught it directly in the chest, just a fucking 20-point increase. What?
It's your fault.
The MOE also caught just a 20-point increase, despite the fact that they also made the Berserker Glaive worse, which
That's
also
fine.
just feels feels petty.
No,
it feels a little petty.
That's okay. They could have made the Berserker Glaive cheaper if they wanted, but the MOE is definitely 120 points of data sheet, even with a nerf glaive. That's fine.
Okay, we went a little far with Votan points reductions. Obviously, yes.
Yep, they turned that down.
They went back up. Gulliman goes up. Incorrect. Gulliman went down 10 points.
Yeah.
Heartbroken. I was really, really, truly hoping. Okay, nice. A mid-tier army detachment change that changes nothing.
Drukhari. I'm just kidding.
Were there any other broad spectrum detachment changes besides the Drukhari one?
I think it's really just Drukhari.
Oh, I guess so.
No.
Eldar, yeah.
No,
Eldar,
fuck that. Blood Angels is this one.
Oh, there you go. That's fair.
Blood Angels and Wolves. Oh my goodness.
What the fuck? I didn't even read the Wolves ones. I was I did the that's a lot. I'm happy for you. I'm sorry. I don't know. With that one, I don't understand how Space Wolves work still. We're probably going to get fucking blindsided and demolished by them at Pyra. Someone's going to hit me with 30 Wolfen and I'm just going to be confused. But I refuse. I refuse to learn what that army does. No.
Okay. A stat that's obviously too high on a unit that gets reduced, a Curse Cultist OC. Nice and simple.
Yeah, I guess.
Why were they OC2?
Because they used to be troops.
Okay, mid-tier army detachment change that makes it tier 1. Probably Drukhari.
No, okay. First of all, Drukhari were not mid-tier before.
You know what I mean.
No argument that Drukhari were mid-tier
Sure.
before. Second of
I
all,
was winning with them.
shut up. Second of all, if I've learned anything, it's that anything can beat the Canadians. Second of all, I don't have anything else. I just had to get Innes's Canadian burn-in. That's it.
Yeah, and I don't think necessarily Drukhari will like debut in tier 1 unless we're putting Necrons in tier 0, in which case maybe they're the bottom of tier 1.
Yeah, then they might be towards the tail end of 1.
Okay. Army that only showed up on top tables in the last 3 months gets buffed. Guard?
Guard. It's Guard.
Goddamn Guard.
It's actually funny because Guard is definitely the example of a bunch of people not playing optimized Guard lists, dragging that win rate all the way down.
Yeah. Yep.
Because their win rate's like 45%. So which puts them at the very bottom of win rates.
Obviously, other buffs is a free space. I don't even know what they were, but they surely exist.
They-
A small FAQ change that ruins a unit.
I'm sure there's something in
It's
there.
the Juggernaut. It's the Juggernaut Lord.
What happened to the Juggernaut Lord, Anthony?
They nerfed Favor, so there's no fucking reason to take that guy
That's
now.
not a small FAQ change.
I mean, it's not a change to him at all.
Fair.
I think you could argue the setting up doesn't count as moving for like anything that like has an on data sheet D6 move that it requires to like keep it alive.
What the fuck was that about? I hate that. Anyway.
Yeah, the base transport
Goldilocks
change is
is
probably
all.
another one for that one. Like anything that's like really tiny and struggles.
Yeah.
Goldilocks zone. I didn't actually watch the video, so someone else might know that one if they used the phrase or anything to refer to it.
I'm sure
But maybe that's why they
I-
didn't nerf Necrons, because they're in the Goldilocks zone.
I rapidly scrolled through that video because I didn't want to listen to their marketing speech again because I still have psychic damage from the frickin' last time that I listened to it, where it was strong but not dominant was the line from the video, and I couldn't take it again.
Yeah. That's Necrons right now.
Mhm.
The rarely seen triple nerf. I think we got that one
All of
in spades.
Yeah.
Compensation buffs for an army that completely breaks it.
Necrons.
Necrons didn't objectively like receive a direct buff though, right?
That's
the reserves thing. They got buffs from that reserves thing being clarified as a turn 1 thing.
Oh yeah, they get to res too, right?
Yeah, and they get to res.
I would honestly, I would put that in the GSC as being like why is that a thing now? But
yeah.
Okay. Gene Stick melee buff that does nothing. No,
Nope.
Gene Stick didn't even get a melee buff.
Don't even pretend.
Nope. Battle
Is that not
change,
the 10-point reduction on a melee unit?
I guess. Yeah, pure strains. There you go.
That does nothing, right? It's a melee buff that
No, that's
doesn't
true.
do
That's true.
anything.
That's fair. You got it.
Okay. The battle tactics change had further ramifications than we expected. I was expecting something on this, and we obviously didn't get it.
I can't believe we didn't get it, but we sure didn't.
Okay. We never anticipated people would combine A and B. I'm choosing to believe
There's a
that's
lot of
Fate's
that.
Messenger and Wraithguard.
I was going to say the splitting units and transports bit, where people were obviously splitting like Cabalite units down to like one Cabalite in Venoms or something like that. And they're like, we didn't predict that you guys would be such terrible jerks about this situation. But now you can't do it. You suck.
A simplified rule becoming unsimplified. I think aura
That's
like
all of them.
same
That's
name
just like
rules
all
don't
of them.
stack.
How many
same
of these
name rules
fucking
don't stack.
things?
All of the modifier rules clarification. Yeah, but
That thing with vehicles and bases is going to drive people actually insane.
No,
Like-
people are just going to get it wrong. Like
People
you're
all the
thinking
time.
about this entirely wrong. It's just going to be played wrong.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's going to break people's brains and they're all going to play it wrong. Or they're all going to play it the way that they're most used to, which
Yeah.
is probably not what GW wants, but is what's going to happen.
I don't believe any Space Marine Dreadnoughts went down. I know the Redemptor went up 10 points, so nothing there. Okay, Data Slate absolutely dropped one day after my tournament submission deadline. It dropped like 2 days after everybody's tournaments, assuming we submitted lists at the weekend. So I think they would get that one. Wonky Graph, World Eaters were missing.
Yeah, where are they? They just didn't want to admit where they were
Dude,
when they nerfed them that hard.
I have a lot to say about this, and it will only make me more upset. So I'm just not gonna instead.
And patent the double nerf, I think we hit the bottom right. So I think based on that, we cleared out the left-hand side of the graph and the right-hand side of the graph.
Yep.
So
the only
well
we got get really was Gilliman goes up.
We didn't get Gilliman goes up. We didn't get
Gilliman
Space Marine Dreadnoughts go down. We didn't actually get Eldar buffs, but that's fine. It's a free space. Who cares? But other than that,
I mean, it depends on what you consider Drukhari. Are Drukhari Eldar? They're dark Eldar. They got buffs.
Yeah, actually, that's true. There is technically Ynnari buffs.
Look, man, I'm gonna read the spaces like 40k players read rules.
Yep, Ynnari buffs. All right, Anthony, roll us into the plugs.
I don't have them anywhere, so
Innes, you should probably just do the plugs.
I know.
I was just gonna say check the links in the description of the video, and those are the plugs, and then just keep moving.
We need Innes to actually.
We have an actual contractual obligation to do it properly, Anthony.
Oh, then yeah, you should probably do it, not me, then, so we don't void whatever contract that is.
It's just Red Dragon. I'm sure he'd have appreciated the bit, but so. Thank you so much, everybody, for being with us so far for what is rolling into our 4th hour of stat check content today alone. I have done a lot of talking today. Please do remember to check out all the places we have stuff. If you want to watch all of that back content, youtube.com/statcheck. If you'd like to support us on Patreon to find out when we're doing all of this bonus stuff and talk about it with us, patreon.com/statcheck. If you'd like to support us by picking up any of our merch, please do check out red-dragon.ca, where you can see all the wonderful things like mats, objective markers, dice, all that sort of stuff that will be coming back in stock. If you're a patron, you'll also get a 20% discount code by being part of our Patreon. You can check out our dice and tokens and all that kind of thing, tokens and markers and all that kind of thing for like widgets on Saltar Games' Etsy store. I believe we have a discount code which is STAT15, which will get you 15% off on anything ordered through their Etsy store. And you can check out Will and Yutani, who make all the terrain for WTC and a bunch of other places. You can use our code StatCheck5. Wish there was consistency with those, but no, StatCheck5, which will get you 5% off on your order and also give us a small kickback to support us. They make great terrain. We'll be using it at WTC. I love playing on it. It's so easy to collapse and pack away. If you want to hear more of us from anybody who's doing stuff, you can check out our 3 other shows on the network in just over a week. Take All Comers will be debuting with Tyler, Nick, and Lucas doing their first show on the network, where they'll be covering all of their journey through competitive 40k, being involved in Team USA and doing events in the Pacific Northwest and across the world. Are any of those guys coming to Pyra, Anthony? No, shame. So we'll not get Pyra coverage on them, but I'm sure they will have plenty to talk about. We have XM1 and End of the Matrix, who have both, I believe, recorded last week. So you can check both of them out on our YouTube as well. That's the show all about Dadhammer for XM1 and all about teams and the various things to support that for End of the Matrix. Lastly, if you're interested in getting coaching from either myself or Typhus, please do check out stat-check.com/coaching, where you can drop us a line if you want to work on anything for the data slate, you've got an upcoming team event, anything like that. Drop us a message. We'd be more than happy to help. It is a wonderful time to be really pushing yourself at the moment because we've got a brand new meta. Eldar are hopefully I'll never see another player on the table again. I know I will never be that lucky, but truly in my heart, I do believe that it is possible that we could live in a better world. That includes Dark Eldar. Screw you both. Let's roll into show questions. Thank you again, everybody, for being with us. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Recommend us to a friend. That's the one we really enjoy. If you want to leave us a question that you definitely get answered, you can either super chat us in the YouTube chat, or you can drop into our Patreon and leave it in the show questions. With that, Nathan, take us away.
All right. Also, as a funny note, if you join our Patreon, you can join in our vibe check leagues. And right now, there's like a vote going on, and I think the teams players are very disappointed.
I don't care. Teams is not winning. I really need to do prizes for the last one. Oh my goodness.
Also, singles has caught up in that voting so fast that they're now tied, by the way, which I think every teams player in the Discord is like very confused by.
I'm going to make the next one doubles just to make people suffer.
That's a combination of singles and teams, and
make people schedule 4 people at the same time.
Amazing. All right, we're going to go into show questions, and it's already told you all the caveats. If you join our Patreon and give us $5 a month, you can get your question answered no matter what. If you super chat us, you will also get your question answered no matter what.
Let's not go with no matter what. If you ask us a really dumb question, we do reserve the right to skip it.
That's true.
That doesn't happen often, but looking at you,
every
Chris.
now and then. There's a question in here that I definitely am going to read, even though it's very stupid and reminds me of some of the old Eric questions that we used to get about David Gaylord. But we're going to start with Patreon questions, and we're going to go with Preston first, which is, what's your favorite type of fine-grained foliated homogeneous metamorphic rock? Derived from an original shale type sedimentary. Why are there two of these? Rock composed of clay or volcanic ash through low-grade regional metamorphism. That's just slate. The answer is slate. Stop it.
I thought it was nice. Or
That's a
I'm
good
pretty
one.
sure that's slate. I think
I
it's
fucking dude.
twice.
Preston's the best, man. He's
Could
so funny.
it be feldspar? I don't know. I'm not really up on my stones.
Man, I thought this question was asked twice actually, so I blamed somebody else in the chat for it, but I'm just gonna blame Preston now. It's fine. Doug asks, how is slate? I think we answered this a little bit. I give it a C, maybe a C plus.
I'll tell you on Friday.
Gets a D for now.
It's the best slate of the edition.
That's
C
not
minus.
true.
That is not even remotely true.
Nope, that's not even close.
No.
In fact.
It's worse than the last slate, which is a surprise.
Yeah.
Dave asks, how do AJ and I get more international members of the Stat Check crew to come to Scotland for the Celtic Cup?
When
I
is
have
it?
plenty of beer tokens as a starting point. I think
The
that
week
is
after
the better
Worlds,
question.
Anthony.
Well, I'm probably
When
not
is
going to that.
Yeah.
When is that though?
The 20. It's like
When is it
the
in relation to Cali Cup? I feel like is
2 weeks after Cali Cup.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, if you can figure out a way for me to get like a free hotel out of the bargain, maybe I'll go. I don't know, man.
Oh, we can definitely do that. That
I
should not
can
be
be convinced, but
Give me dates because I've always wanted to go. So
Yeah,
to Scotland
we'll talk.
anyways. So
Depending
I am
on-
more tempted
Depending-
to try and get the polls over, but we'll see.
depending on when it is in November, actually, if Anna has time off around it, I could be convinced if we can make it more monetarily easy. That could be real.
Samesies, basically.
Yeah.
But also, if you want to come to the Celtic Cup in Scotland, those
I
are
feel
two
like you should
very
know.
different words. They're both words that are used in the Glasgow context, which is the problem.
Oh.
Yeah, if you're interested in coming out, it is, I want to say the 23rd and 24th of November. It'll be in Glasgow. It's on a little place in the outskirts that I don't have the details of, but I'll post all the details in the statue properly, and I'll plug it properly on the show when tickets go live in March. But if you're interested in coming along, it is going to be a 5-round with top cut to top 4 super major with 102 players. We should have a stream and all that good stuff set up. We're really looking forward to supporting it. StatCheck will be sponsoring it in some capacity that we're still working out the details for. But yeah, do come along if that is something that interests you. It will be the first ever super major in Scotland.
Awesome. Sean asks, and I blamed him for the question that I thought of before because it was just long before seeing it. Would the game be substantially more interesting if precision interacted with lone op at all? I find that 90% of the time using precision to actually target a character in a squad is not very useful, with the durability buff characters potentially being the exception, and only when you have enough precision to kill them before the rest of the squad is dead. Do you think precision should be able to break lone op, essentially, I guess is the question.
Probably, but I also think it would require some changes to the general availability of precision in order to actually be meaningful, because there's not a ton of it in the game.
I think that'd be kind of cool. It'd make the existing examples of it quite good. I don't know. That'd be cool.
I'm always down with
Definitely.
buff to my eliminators. Now that I learned they're not damage 3.
Tears.
So dumb.
Fulvio, Red Raven 84, a longtime listener, first time patron. And is it Linguini or Linguinil? I don't know. It's like
Anthony,
an I.
could you cover this one for me?
No, he asked you.
Yeah,
and I'm asking you to educate this
No.
dumbass white guy.
I'm a dumbass white guy. This is the blind leading the blind around here, bro. What do you want from me?
Look, man,
I would have
even...
heard like the guy from Ratatouille, which is Linguini, as I believe, but that is probably offending somebody.
You know who probably knows the answer to this question? Dom.
Fulvio.
Dom probably knows the answer to this question.
I bet Fulvio knows. That's why he's asking.
Oh,
somebody in chat record us a voice message so we can listen to how it's properly done.
Please don't do that.
Glarg may also know the answer to that question, but anyway.
I don't know, man. It's just linguine. The closest I've been to real Italian food isn't that close. I've never been to Italy, guys.
Yeah.
John asks, so should I play pure Harlequins or GSC for the next couple of months, and why? Both are ready, painted, and purple.
Probably play GSC, not pure Harlequins. Pure Harlequins sounds like...
If you're gonna play pure Harlequins, at least put like a Night Spinner and Fuegan in, and don't show yourself.
If you're gonna play pure Harlequins, just like put an extra spike on them and play Drukhari. Like,
just shove an avatar of Kane in there just for fun.
How much do you want the Harlequin detachment to just be a carbon copy of the Drukhari one?
I wouldn't complain. I just want what I want is a carbon copy of Light from 9th, but they're not going to do that. So
you're not getting that. No.
Mother of Christmas. Too many people trying to ping me at the same time. AJ from Saltier Games asks, thank you. My brain, no work, no good. What are your guys' goals for this year coming, and what events are you looking forward to?
The next 3 months are going to be fucking bedlam. Doing Pyra into Eurotrash into Alpine is going to be an experience. A good one.
Yep.
But an experience. I don't know, man. Like, I just, I don't really have any, like, goals like that. I'm just really looking forward to enjoying doing a bunch of team events with my homies. The functional death, as far as I'm concerned, of the ITC and my, like, willingness to do singles means that I'm not really chasing best in factions anymore. Also, I've gotten one for every one of my favorite factions at this point, so I don't really feel the need to chase that dragon really hard unless I like trip into a bunch of single success and like happen to get one again this year, where they somehow start scoring team events differently. So yeah, I just want to win all the team events I go to, but past that I don't really have like goals per se.
I'm gonna win War Masters. That's my goal. That's
Fuck
it.
yeah.
I'm gonna do
Strong.
Yeah, Nathan.
Ambitious. I like
I'm
it.
I'm gonna force Anthony and Innes to teach me how to do that.
My
but-
goal is just to get Nathan to finish day 2.
Yeah.
Look, man, I'll finish day 2 if they got backpacks. That's
You
all
just
I'm
have to
gonna
not
say.
disappear from mic checks this time.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Okay. Next, and for
Next
me,
question.
it's more or less the same as Anthony, except I don't. There's 2 that I'm like do as well as we can, and 3 that I want to win, and then we'll figure out, and like 5 that I want to win,
Fair.
and we'll figure out the rest
Also,
later.
all white M21 is correct. If I win War Masters, I'm gonna hold up a damn printed sign that says War Master Metasoft.
EU Meta Soft, bro.
That's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
only way
Soft.
that it's EU Metal Soft is what I'm gonna hold up in front of everyone. Logan asks, how many more eyes will we need to keep on Necrons? All of them.
We don't
Actually, you
have
shouldn't
enough
even need
fucking
eyes.
eyes to keep
It's
eyes on them.
very funny that they were at the 56% red zone in the graph that GW posted in their article where they weren't nerfing them.
They could have just
While
they could have just been
Blonde
like, we
Vincent
checked the
Rodriguez got
stats and they were fine.
they could have just
I just-
lied. They could have lied, guys.
Yeah.
They could have fudged the number, and I would have just been like, I don't know where they get their data from, but for some reason Necrons are lower than they're supposed to be.
But
That
instead
would have been a better situation. They should have just lied to me.
Yeah.
I prefer lies. Derek asks, regarding the slate, are we laughing or are we crying?
I don't know
I'm
that I'm
laughing.
crying, but I'm certainly not laughing.
I'm laughing. It's all right.
I'm like shrugging.
Every Necron player sucks. It'll be
Shrugging.
fine, guys.
Shrugging is a good way to put. Yeah, Gitto, notoriously bad at the game.
Yep,
It's okay.
Terrible
Right.
player.
Bryn asks, why did they hurt my WE so bad?
Bryn, if I can figure it out, I'll fucking let you know, homie. But I don't have a good answer.
And there are a lot of questions today. Dan F asks, are demons good now?
Maybe.
Probably.
Fulvio
Good
has
is a frame of
second-
mind, guys.
Yeah.
Fulvio asks, does the Berserker Glaive adds on top of the WE charge bonus?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Dan, I'm not going to answer this question on air, and I don't think we should. Ben says, now that we have slate, yeah, we're not answering that question. It's not fair or reasonable.
Yeah.
Ben asks, now that we have slate, what's your picks for top 8 factions for teams? Asking for a friend who is me.
I don't know. That's like as
Working
close
on
as I
it.
can get.
Sorry.
Like, yeah, there's like 14 factions that could probably make an 8, and then like 5 more that are like peripheral to that. So it's tough.
And then
right
like
now.
2 more that like if you had a really good player, you could argue and
Yeah.
probably not be that wrong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Alex W asks, for someone who has a list submission for a GT in a few days and no time to practice any new lists, how would you go about list making in the immediate fallout of the data slate? Stay with old concepts or simply net list what seems good?
just that list.
Yeah, net list, that's a tough situation to be in. If you're more specific about it in a given factions channel and tag me in it, I'll try and help you.
There you go.
Take what other people are doing that works. If you don't see anything, play what you what you had before and try to cram in like some new stuff that got points decreases or change positively because of the rules if you could make it work. Don't sweat it too hard.
Ben asks a question that I don't think is answerable, but then asks a question for Innes, which is, what are the must-eats in Scotland?
Obviously,
Munchie
you
box.
have to try a munchie box, deep fried Mars bars, dragon soup, haggis.
I was denied your second choice.
Yeah, but we got one for typhus and mycin.
What the fuck? I've spent so much time in Scotland.
You'll just have to come for Cali Cup then, and we'll get.
What is a pizza crunch?
It's a
It's
deep fried
good.
pizza.
Okay. How are you guys more Midwestern than Midwesterners are?
They're not. They're not.
Look,
They just aren't.
We're
I've been
not.
to both. They aren't.
not even a little bit.
I don't know. No, Ben, it's not answerable one. I'm not even trying to. Griggs asks, do the point changes for Codex Marines open up new builds, or are they simply just a nerf?
I think a lot of the it's impossible to answer for the Marines, right? Like, because when the Marines book dropped, none of us saw like most of the builds that are run now. So we'll let you know in a couple weeks after the smart people play the army for a while.
Man. All I'm saying is somebody is going to put 480 points of Wolfen on the table, and it's going to be really good, and it's going to suck.
Yeah.
Because they fight on death and they're not fast, but you can play them in Gladius, and then they are fast. And I'm annoyed that Wolfen might be viable. Just in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they have the same damage profile as Deathwing Knights while being
I actually love that, but
just better.
A Wolfen is 16 points a model, a Deathwing Knight is 59, just for comparison.
There's a small difference between them, but if we ignore that's
true. Look, I'm just talking output.
Yeah.
Like 3 times as expensive, and then some, almost 4 times as expensive. And they're not that different defensively. Like, they're the same toughness. They have the same invulnerable save. You get 2 Wolfen for every 1. Like, I get it.
This is the new Anthony leans at screen thing. Is his side lean going? What?
I really hate Space Wolves, and I'm annoyed that they might even be close to playable. Can I just go with that? So I'm hyperboleing.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. That's fine. All right, we're gonna go with the next
Space
question.
Wolves are basically Deathwing Knights. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
We're gonna stop you while you're digging this hole deeper. Richard says, "I have lift submission soon. Is it silly to jump on the golden gravy train from Marines? I assume Custodes.
Look,
now that Custodes got a buff, I do want to see how high I can finish, but my reps have been mostly Marines so far."
The answer to this is entirely on like your play and comfort level. Like if you've played a bunch of Custodes in the past and you're familiar with their play cycles and you want to go back to the thing that you're more comfortable with, ball out. They're pretty good now.
But also a monkey on opium could probably 4-on-1 with Custodes, so
that's largely true.
All right. Dan Johnson says, what do you think Eldar lists look like going forwards?
MSU bullshit out the ass, possibly Yunari.
Innis, I know you hate Eldar, but please give an actual answer. Anthony, please don't say Night Spinners.
I am so sorry, Dan. But the answer does involve Night Spinners.
The answer is, see all of the stuff that you ran in your army before that had a toughness higher than 6 that isn't Night Spinners. Just fucking throw it out in more chaff.
Yeah, you're going to get rid of all that shit, and you're going to take the way too fast stuff, and you're going to leave the Avatar in there. And you're going to pray you don't pair Necrons who are going to fuck you like they owe you money, or like you owe them money. And aside from exactly that, you do get to just stunt on Drukhari if you play triple spinner, triple spider. You get to just ruin their day. You get to jam spiders at them, kill 3 of their transports with indirect, kill 2 of those units, and then kill another one in Overwatch, and just be like, "Who's the real elves, bitch?" But
I mean, like,
aside from that,
you could split fire those War Spider squads probably 3 ways as well.
Oh yeah, like. And once all that's done, you get to go, oh man, didn't you guys just get buffed a whole bunch? And watch the Drukhari player try not to cry.
Yeah, Lance ain't mean shit when you were winning me on 2s already.
When you're already dead. Dead models don't have Lance or OBSEC.
The follow-up question is, do you think it's actually worth chasing Fate Dice with Eldred/Guardians? Or should you just treat them as a nice-to-have fun thing?
Take a unit of the morons, put them on your home field, get a couple extra Fate Dice, and have something to hold your home field.
You maybe, like, take the enhancement with a squad of Wind Riders or something now.
Don't waste your time on that. Just take, like, Fate's Messenger and put it on one of the most insane lone ops they've ever written in the Death Jester and laugh at people.
That guy was not in lists is insulting.
It's so rude! But now he is.
How did Fuegan not go up? That's my next.
Dude, the Way Leaper with no changes blew my mind. I was not happy earlier today.
All Scary says in chat is Dem's fighting words, by the way.
Well, unfortunately, you're not fighting because you're dead, because Anthony's army killed you. So
yeah. Look, Scary, I want to believe, but I've seen the shadows, I've seen the darkness that is being on the receiving end of the spinner as a venom, and it's not good.
What I will say, Scary, is I'm sure you'll do very well in Canada.
All right, we have a lot more questions to get through.
Look,
Apparently,
it's fine. I don't know where to be.
Dude, I got like a multi-part question in here from Cliff. What the fuck is this thing?
there's a 7-part question. Is Luke asks, is GW punishing World Eaters players for NOS's sins? Is that
Yes.
why the balance data
Yeah.
slate was delayed?
I actually really support this view of things. I think that World Eaters got hit because of NOS. I didn't do shit.
8 bounding rhinos, 8 nerfs to the army.
Yeah, that's right.
Scary says he just loves being the underdog, by the way.
We know.
Congratulations. For violence, there's a 7-part question, and it's all
Okay.
grilled cheese question.
Ugh.
As a Cliff, as a in the first as a grilled cheese expert, Cliff would love to hear about your approach. I guess we can all answer this question.
No,
if we
just
want.
Anthony. No, I refuse.
Okay.
What kind of bread?
Whatever bread I happened to have at the time. This time it was like white Italian bread. Not very interesting.
Butter on the bread or melted in the pan?
Yes.
2A, if on the bread, on the pan side only or on both?
On the pan side.
2B, unsalted butter or salted butter?
Salted.
Which kind of cheese?
This time I used the shredded Mexican cheese that I had used to make a burrito earlier in the day.
I love that. That's one of my favorites. I won't lie. How many slices of said cheese? They're very tiny.
I do not have the ability to do the math of how many slices of the shred like come together. That's not me. That's the rest of the
Until
network.
it was covered in like a reasonable layer, right?
Yeah. It was like I tried, Anna doesn't love cheese, but she still wanted a grilled cheese. So I did like not a ton of the cheese. So it was more about like the salty bread, I think, that she was into.
What level of browning?
Not crazy, just like a reasonable toasting.
Sprinkled bits of cheese on the pan side or left classically unsprinkled?
Classically unsprinkled, mostly because I'm an ape and I would burn the shit out of myself if I tried to do it the other way.
Did you put any add-ins on it? If more than one, please rank them.
So I cheated a little bit with this to make it taste better, the way I cheat with most food that I make, in that I like put a bunch of butter on one side of the bread and then put adobo on it and then flip that bitch over and put adobo on the other side and buttered that shit too. And that was real good and makes anything you do taste better. If you live in the United States, you can get adobo for almost nothing in the ethnic food aisle, and it makes everything you'll make taste better.
I won't lie. I do the same thing, but with chili crisp, essentially. I just put it in the middle, though, so that I get like a little extra bits of it.
Nice. Yeah, the adobo is like hard cheating. It's like, do you want your food to taste infinitely better and not want to use more than one type of spice? Just pull out this nonsensically sized thing of adobo that's $1. Shake that shit on there.
Look, it's because you can adobo anything. You just
That's
adobo.
true. Correct.
You can adobo anything. If you're making something, you can
follow-up
just
question.
adobo it.
Yep.
What the fuck's adobo?
It's like a Filipino seasoning, I think, right?
No fucking clue where it comes from. It's just like salt, spices, bit of pepper. Go nuts.
Fair enough. That does sound pretty good.
I can't remember anymore. Yeah, just Google adobo seasoning. It will come up, bud.
Yeah.
I'm mostly going with, I didn't actually know what word Anthony was saying for like a decent portion of that, but good show.
I'll make you something with it the next time you're here, and you'll be like, oh, that's just good. And Anthony's clearly not very good at cooking, so this must be something else happening here.
Yeah, but let's keep going. Dan F asks, what is the best bread for French toast?
Whatever you have available.
Brioche, surely.
Brioche is the best one. It's true.
The best French toast is the French toast that you have on your plate. So whatever you can make it with.
What was that in us? What kind of French toast?
He knows.
Scott M asks,
I actually don't like French toast, but
with Slate now upon us and seeing T-Suns get nothing, would you have made any changes?
I think they drag Necrons, so I think they might actually be fine.
I think they should have nerfed them again, just for the funny.
I don't like that T-Suns play 11th edition while the rest of us are stood around jerking off. I hate that.
Can I just say how much I hate being able to move after you arrive from reserve still?
That is the fucking worst change they've ever made. Fucking ship it. I'd rather have released dev wounds than that shit. Fuck, I hate that so much.
Look, I would be okay with you dropping Magnus 100 points if you got rid of that rule.
Yeah?
Just can't come in from reserve and move with anything. Fuck Shadow Specters, fuck Fire and Fade, fuck movie again, Temporal Surge.
Chronomancer.
Just, yep, none of that. Get rid of it, and you can drop Magnets 100 points and give rubrics full wound rerolls if your opponent's deployed, and I won't care.
Yeah.
The next question we answered already, so I'm just going to tell you that Derek said, Anthony, hope your weekend goes well and the slate isn't causing too much stress.
No, it's been pretty much fine. My new job is so dope that like most of the time now, when like 40K stuff happens, I'm just like, yeah, fucking this is a day in the office, whatever, man. I'm gonna play some fucking bad world eaters and figure it out. Like,
Is Bob World Leaders what you're calling Drukhari?
oh, that's
the next
not
question
nice.
is from Scott, which is Kasserkin in transports? Yes or no? Or are they simply better on the board walking in from reserves?
You should do whatever the fuck David did to me when we played. Those things were real good.
I think no, personally, but I can see the argument for both. They can't order themselves in transports, which is a little stretchy, and they're not officers, so they don't. No, because they're not officer keywords, so they don't benefit from the change.
Okay, that's good.
So I think they're a little better on the board. But
Isaac is really pulling it out for guard players out there. Is there a good guard list to just copy and try out?
Nas's Nottingham, Nassim Fashane's Nottingham list. Just play that, change it a little bit for the Manicore count for the Manicore change. You'll be fine.
Do you clean out your app lists post data slate?
No, because then I'd have to pay for the app and make to be able to make Lewis. I have all the ones I made during the free trial.
Look, I haven't given Games Workshop money for models and fuck knows how long, but I will pay those guys every month. This list, the list rating app is fucking great. Like, it works really well. All the stuff's right there. I'm gonna get a bunch of codex codes for getting best in faction world leaders, and all the info be right there is really good.
The next one is also from Isaac, which is also I want to play at my local store since I moved to a new city more, but I feel like I am doing some significant seal clubbing. My old store was very competitive, but this one is not as much. I have yet to lose a game at an RTT or pick up, and while I want to become more involved, I don't want to be the guy that keeps beating up on non-hyper competitive players. Should I just play a bad list, try not to play as well? What is the best option?
I think the thing that I would do, and what I've done in the past when I ran into the situation, is I try and just upskill the group. And that usually involves a lot of doing some not playing yourself and doing a lot of watching them play each other and being like, hey, you could do this instead of this and watch that go like this. And that usually helps. If you want to get really into it, you can run a night at your local for this, where it's hey, on Thursday, whatever is this competitive night, and then you pair people off and do stuff like that. Yeah, that's one of the ways to do it. It also depends on where you're at. If you move to a reasonably sized city in the US, there's probably other stores that are nearby, and you can get a competition thing going, maybe. I don't know. This
but also you can sandbag armies. It's not that big. If you have another army available, go and play some ad mech. It's not the most. It's not actually that bad. When you're playing a bad army, but you're flexing a little bit, and you're really hey, I can see if I can make this work. It can be interesting in a different way. It's not the same as trying out for practicing for a bigger tournament, but it can help, and it's a good way of getting stuff out of still playing those games.
Yeah.
The next question is from Dan F, which is why is it FC Celtic but Celtic ancestry?
I have no idea.
Easy enough.
I'm not from Glasgow. I'm sorry.
The next question is from Paul. Imperial Knights good now, or are there standing nerfs too much to make them good?
Imperial Knights weren't good on 10th release. They're not good now.
Jack Chapman
asks, Deathwatch, who were also terrible and kept losing to them.
Is it better to get no changers after all this time, Tau, or get nerfed? I thought Tau kind of got nerfed.
Yeah, Tau got nerfed.
They get no changes?
No, Tau got buffed. Riptides went down.
Yeah, prices went up. It kind of washed a little bit.
Dude, Riptides are so fucking good.
Derek asks, or says, glad to hear your job is going so well, Anthony.
That's not a question, Derek.
I don't care. I'm gonna make Anthony feel good for some reason today, apparently. And that's apparently the goal for the day. There you go.
I'll take it.
Now so Tower still fine despite the small nerf / buff.
Yeah,
That's basically what we're coming from. Okay.
Tower fine. We may not end up taking them to Pyra, but they're ultimately a perfectly fine army for singles and teams. I don't really know what their response to Satan and shit is, but maybe singles is struggle, but we'll see.
All right, now we're going to go into super chats from YouTube. So you guys have a couple minutes, essentially, if you want to super chat some more. Well, there have been so many questions, I'm not going to pull as many questions from chat today. That one guy says, Hyped for Cali Cup 2024. Hope to see you guys there. Here's some money for all the content. Thank you, that
Thanks,
one
John.
guy,
Yo.
for the $10.
Cali Cup sold out like immediately. I'm super excited for next year. I fucking love that event.
Yeah, I'm looking
The next
forward to
one
hopefully getting back out again. Ben
is
says,
from
I see
Ben.
Kitty, I spend money. It's that simple. I don't see Kitty anymore, Anthony.
She's over there. You want to see her?
Yes. Nichols looked
We're
like in.
We're gonna explore some more of Anthony's bedroom, apparently. Aww. Also, I will continue to say that you should have somebody look at you the way that Anthony's cat looks at him when he is chilling with her.
Everybody.
That's just what you. That's what you deserve in life. Tim Penny continues to launder money through us, $2 at a time, saying Archon Vanilla this time.
Thank you.
Red Rum
Hopefully.
says, isn't a way to play WE now to abuse the For the Blood God to reroll. I assume that's the stratagem for rolling after you kill a unit.
Yeah.
To
It's the only way.
reroll often blessings and use them either to bring Angron back or get better blessings.
You were already doing that most of the time, and the sequencing of getting that buff is usually not super significant for getting something like Advance in Charge. You can use it to like add a sequence, get the Feel No Pain and stuff. But yeah, like, you know, you'll try. Like, it's what you got. That's the only way to get more rolls. So you'll do what you can to use the tools you got. I am very much in like a... I was very upset, like full disclosure, when I first saw the World Eater changes. I've thankfully since had a little bit of time to like calm down a bit about it all. But like ultimately at the end of the day for World Eaters, you're gonna just like play a pretty similar archetype. Like don't stress yourself out about Forge Fiends and Hellbrutes and like the shit that already wasn't good. It's still bad.
Don't play 120 Jackals.
That is much worse now. Because the World Eater Demon Prince aura changed. It's going to be less reliable. That's okay. Like maybe something in there rolls out as an army. I need to test it to see it. The issue with testing in 40k is that you frankly don't get that many test games. You just don't. Like even when you like take a week to go burn and like play with top players and stuff, you're gonna come out of that with some level of bias depending on how the rolls just went, right? And those units and the buffs and eaters, you might get them, you might not. It just depends. We'll see how it goes.
The next one is from OnePlus Saves, which says, do you think infiltrate, redeploy, change is important?
I think it's a mistake.
I think I have broadly, for most armies, this is going to net to, if you have a redeploy and infiltrates, you are better if you win the turn roll at blocking off other infiltrators, and you'll be worse if it happens back to you. So, for example, the Genestealer cults, you can like have a squad with the infiltrate ability, and you can string it across your opponent's deployment zone 9 away, so that they can't infiltrate their own units into anywhere relevant, and then you can redeploy them back, and now you don't just have to put them in your deployment zone, you can put them like into a ruin in midfield, for example. So you get a little bit better staging, a bit like that. I think in that case, it's like it's marginal but noticeable. Like I don't think it's particularly like a big deal, but it's also like didn't really need to change. Then you have like exactly Vanguard Tyranids, where it's like, oh, okay, if this detachment was good, that'd be terrifying.
Yeah.
But thankfully, that detachment is still terrible. As much as I really want to try, I'm still going to try it because maybe that changes enough that it just gets old. But it's one of those like, 8th edition Raven Guard style things where it's like this really shouldn't be a thing. Because I can just deploy 3 units like a moron and then redeploy them like a moron anywhere I want and like hard alpha you. So in that case, it's one of those rules that just like has very, very little gain from existing, and it's like such marginal upside for such massive potential downside that bad change, I think.
The next one is from James Workshop, who's asking if Adobe tastes good. I don't know. I've never tried eating a PDF before, so gonna have to pass along. I'm unsure. But Adobo is cheating.
Yeah.
Long Shoto asks, guards, Death Rider Squadron, and Commander, thoughts on their hard screening ability?
I don't know shit about that unit.
Well, give me 1 second to look it up. You guys do the next one.
Okay.
Next question is from Gogo Gleno. As a Necron player, what do you think the meta response is going to be that I should watch out for, consider over the next few weeks?
It depends a lot on which version of the Necrons you're playing. If you're playing Hypercrypt, obviously, depends on how many Satan you're running. Broadly, people will probably have some level of answer to a monolith, I imagine. If you're playing the Wraith builds in Canoptic Court, It's a little different. The answer to those is frankly a little less clean than a lot of the answers to a lot of the other stuff. But they're a little easier to like jam up, out OC, etc., etc. Ultimately, one of the reasons Necrons is so good, they can't really respond to it super great. Kind of just does its thing, and then you either score more than them or you don't, and that's kind of it.
Okay, so a Death Corps Creed Death Rider Squadron with Commander has Infiltrate and the move D6 when your opponent ends close to them ability. So you can like put them like strung across your opponent's deployment zone, and they move out turn one, and then you like with the first unit, and then you slam straight forwards to block other stuff or move away and stuff like that. It's expensive. It throws away an assassinate in an army that can already be pretty vulnerable to that. And I don't really know what it does in other games where that's not beneficial, or you lose first drop and your opponent just like puts an infiltrator down on themselves. It's not something I've seen showing up much. It could be interesting, but I don't know. There's a lot of fly in the meta that it does nothing against. It's a decent amount of points to throw away. I'm not altogether that sold.
Yeah.
And then the last question for the evening is going to be from Specs, which is Innis. Thoughts on Patriarch plus 10 Steelers as an option in GSC now?
It's okay for 255 in a world where aberrants are like a 400 and odd points commitment. Like, it's nice to have a backup melee option that isn't absurdly expensive. I actually like the idea of 5, maybe a little bit more, just not as much of a commitment that can use its like their infiltrators advance in charge, which is a pretty good combination just in general. You have a lot of ability to put turn one pressure on. The Patriarch has a battleshock ability, which if you time it right could be reasonably relevant in terms of like denying primary and stuff like that. Or not denying, but like scoring primary yourself or scoring secondaries. Like, it seems okay. Running characters directly at your opponent is always a problem Gene Cults has, where it's very easy to put assassinate. The army isn't that great at pressuring you to stop like your opponent from just scoring homers or something like that. So maybe marginal upside, but having a unit that doesn't die to a stiff breeze might be interesting. If you're playing against triple night spinners, you will cry.
Then there actually is one last question in the Discord from Tori, which is, how do I win the mirror match and accept that I'm playing Custodes instead of continuing to slog through these Necrons that I hate?
There was one more I wanted to show as well.
I think just play, it's pretty straightforward. Like, you like Custodes, Tori. You know you do. Just fucking go play them. Like, they smash big things. You live in Alaska. Most of your meta is big shit. Just go tear apart the big dudes.
I was really one last one. Somebody asked about, and I'm struggling to find it, but somebody asked about the Tyranid Swarm plus Triple X screen build. Basically, it's the list that Tyler's been playing recently. I think Tyler took it to LVO.
Tyler did not take it to LVO. He played GSC there, but he's been playing it a bunch just in general, like with your scrims and stuff.
Very broadly, it's really nice to be able to answer armies that shoot you by shooting them back. It's a pretty good thing to do when you have an army that's broadly pretty unkillable. X screens are fairly CP independent. They're okay at standing still, and your opponent, you're very good at like shutting down sightlines and move blocking to let X screens kind of do their thing. They're resilient enough, and you like I said, you don't need to spend CP on them. They also, like, the reroll ones is like reasonably meaningful when you're firing a bunch of spine fists and stuff like that with lethal hits. Like, it can add up in terms of damage. And you don't really need the high tyrant in that build. Just play the Tarragon, like the Nerf Tyrant and Death Leaper. You'll trim a bit of the scoring to fit it in now, I think. But it's just a very solid little army. It has its bad matchups, it has the good matchups, but it's very capable of going on very deep runs into tournaments, as Sam Pope showed at LVO with a variant of that sort of list. It's also good fun and crushes your opponent's soul, which I consider to have a lot of merit. The idea of like showing up in round like 8 of a tournament and just being like looking in your opponent's deploying that shit against you, and you're like, oh my god, I have to think about this now, like, has value.
Yeah,
I won't lie. Now I'm going to go look up that list after this just to see what it looks like, because I do have Tyranids just sitting around.
If I didn't have to rebase and if I didn't have to rebuy Termagants, I would 100% be trying it out right now. But the idea of like building and painting flesh border, like I have like 90 Devil Gaunts, like Devourers, and like 150 Flesh Borers and 3 Spine Fists, and I need like 75 Spine Fists and like Spike Webs and like all the guns that came in the box, and I'm like, I just can't do it. Not again. I've painted so many Gaunts that the idea of painting more because they're on bigger bases and nicer models with different guns of the two I have, I can't do it.
Yeah,
that's fair. And on that note, we're out of questions. thank you everybody who sent in super chats for the money. Thank you to all the Patreons also for paying for Patreon and asking questions.
I will do one last shout out for the for a couple of things. Jeremy wrote a bunch of helped out with a bunch of the articles on Goonhammer, so he did the like the field manual review and the data slate review and all of that sort of thing on Goonhammer. Do go check them out for all of their 10th edition Ballast data slate coverage. Jeremy was a big help there. And thank you to Goonhammer for giving him the opportunity to like use his stats and all that kind of thing. It's great for us to get out there, but it's also nice to see that level of like coverage and doing that. He also did the like the end of the previous meta review. Also, we did a 2.5-hour coverage where we went through with a fairly fine-tooth comb all of the changes from the data slate, the indexes, index cards, the neutral card detachment, all that sort of stuff. That is, if you go into the live section on youtube.com/statcheck, you can see the 2.5-hour piece of content that we produced also today. And this wraps up the 4.5 hour of me doing coverage today on the Balanced data slate. So it's been super interesting hearing everybody's opinions and thoughts on it. But myself, Tim, and Jeremy went through that. If you want to hear opinions from a bunch of people besides myself, Anthony, and Nathan on armies that those guys play that weren't covered here in as much depth. If you want to hear specifically things like Death Guard, Demons, Votan Sisters, all that kind of stuff, there was a very amount in there. And I went a lot more in depth on my factions as well than I did today because this one was a little bit more about Anthony and Nathan. With that said, don't panic. Somebody will figure out a build that beats Necron somewhere. Maybe. We can hope. Somebody figured out the way to beat Eldar with CSM that nobody else had spotted. Maybe it'll happen. Give it some time. There's another one in 3 months. It can't be that bad. This is not the meta that we're playing WTC on, so I don't have to worry that much. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Good luck if you're at a tournament this weekend. If you were at the ITT in Coventry this weekend, come and say hi to me. I'll be more than happy to say your name. As always, please introduce yourself. If you come to the tournament, we speak for more than 2 seconds because I will not know your name. Have a great weekend. Anthony, Nathan, anything you want to close out on?
Fuck Necrons.
Bye-bye.
God's sake, Anthony.